So you made it through inspections. Closing day is just around the corner, and you might be wondering, how does that work in Arizona? Well, thank you for joining me again. My name is Angela Tauscher. I'm a broker owner in Mesa, Arizona, telling you about all things good, bad, and ugly when it comes to real estate in Arizona. So we do things a little bit differently here in Arizona than I think are done in other parts of the country. First, we are a title and escrow state. Don't deal with attorneys usually when it comes to processing through the purchase of your home. Of course, clients are always welcome to have things reviewed with an attorney, but here in Arizona, title handles most of the documents that proceed us through to closing as a neutral third party. So what's next? First and foremost, here in Arizona, when we talk about closing day, the close of escrow, that is the day that we mean we will close and you will get your keys. Assuming nothing blows up and we don't derail and go off the tracks, but more often than not, whatever your closing day is the day that everything gets wrapped up, all of your loan docs are processed and finalized, we get you signed at title, and then the county records your deed, and then yay, we get to hand you keys. It's the bestest. So there's a few things that you want to do ahead of time, however, to be ready for closing day. And the reason I want to make sure and bring that up is from my understanding, there are several states on the East Coast where you close on one day, but you don't actually get possession of the house for till whatever day. That is not how we handle things here in Arizona. So one of the more important elements is that you want to get your utilities set up. You can actually call well before closing day and get those pre-scheduled to start. And the reason I mention that is sometimes folks are closing on a Friday. Now, here at Rover, we never recommend closing on a Friday if you can avoid it. And here's why. If something does go sideways on that closing day, you can't close until the next business day now, which was usually Monday, barring that's a holiday, of course. And so we are dependent on the county recorder, and the county is only open Monday through Friday, and they are definitely not open on holidays. So if you were scheduled to close on a Friday and something goes sideways, now you have a lot of problems. You've got movers and, people helping you, and maybe a moving van, and so many things that you have to untangle, as well as temporary housing to figure out the new date down the road. So here at Rover, we prefer to try and close on a Monday through Thursday just to avoid any possible issues. If we have a delay in closing by a day, it's a lot easier to rearrange things just the very next day than over a weekend. So let's back up to that utility conversation. You want to call before you close to pre-schedule the day to turn on your utilities, because the sellers often already called ahead of time to tell them the day to turn them off. And why is that important? Well, maybe you're getting keys to the new house on Thursday and you think, oh, I'll call everything in on Friday. I don't need them on Thursday. Well, that can be a problem because a lot of cities in Arizona, the government offices are closed on Fridays. So now if you needed water or electric or whatever that might be over the weekend, you can't call to schedule that until Monday. And as we know, do you usually get same day turn on? No. So that could really drag things out for you if you were counting on having those utility services. What day should you schedule to have them turn on? I always recommend the day of closing. Now, technically per our Arizona contract, the sellers are supposed to keep the utilities on until closing day, but once in a while they jump the gun, they get excited and they have everything turned off, say the day before. So if you have them turned into your name the day of closing, then you are in a much better position to have those utilities you need when you're ready to move into the house. I know you probably already had this one on your list, but it gets overlooked all the time. And that is to make sure to change your forwarding address with the Postal Service. Now, they have made that super convenient and you can usually just go online and do a change of address, but you definitely want to do that. I can't tell you how many times we get calls from your old location that you have packages and mail and important documents, especially, if it's around tax time, that now is an emergency situation to go pick up, or hope that the new people at that house will give them to us so we can get them to you. Another final step to closing out the transaction before we give you the keys to your house is to do what we call a final walkthrough. And really, the purpose of this is we want to make sure that if they agreed to do repairs, that those were taken care of, that when we do this walkthrough, that, as they were moving out, they didn't bang up and ding and leave holes in the walls all over the place. If they had agreed to leave the refrigerator, that the fridge is still there, those kind of things. So this final walkthrough is usually done the day before, or sometimes even the morning of closing, and they don't take very long. Sometimes it doesn't look great because the seller is still in the middle of the chaos of, getting all that final push together. And as we know, it always looks worse before it looks better. But again, the purpose of that final walkthrough is just a quick 5-10 minutes just to see the overall scope of how the house is looking as they are transitioning out of the home prior to you taking ownership of it. Now, if we do find that they've done something that really shouldn't have happened, there's big holes in the wall or they've removed stuff that we got a problem, we can pump the brakes. I just call the title company. We tell them, hey, we need to put everything on hold, even if you've already signed your documents, and we can get those items resolved with the other side, usually with quick phone call. Most of the time the parties will jump in and they want to work to close the home typically just as much as you do. But that's the purpose of the final walkthrough. Now, if you're the seller of this home, just know that this will be asked for. It's not usually a long period of time. Most buyer's agents know the house is not going to look great because you might still be in the middle of moving, and it's always best to just leave the house, for 15-30 minutes. Give the buyers and the buyer agent that time on their own to walk through the house and just double check that everything looks good and that you'll be ready to close. Now, another topic that often comes up is the topic of cleanliness. What should you expect? What is the seller going to do or not do to have that house ready for you if you're the buyer? Unfortunately, in our Arizona contract, it doesn't really address a level of cleanliness at all. The expectation is that the home should be at least in the same condition and working order that you found it when you made the offer, when you did that walkthrough and you made the offer on the home. Now, I always encourage our sellers, if we have that side of the file, to leave the home in a nice, clean, kept condition. In other words, sweep the floors, vacuum, clean the bathrooms, wipe down the counters. Just don't leave it looking yuck. I mean, think about how you'd like the house if you were the person that was going to be moving into it. And one of the reasons is A, it's just common courtesy, and B, as I mentioned earlier in the video, something of yours is going to show up back on that porch as a package that great Aunt Gertrude forgot to change the address, or you forgot to change your new address with HR at work and some important document or check showed up. You don't want those new buyers to be like, oh, we hate those people, burn everything. You want them to make the phone call, to text us, call us, so we can go get those documents and get them over to you. I know this is a lot of information, especially if you've never actually purchased a home in Arizona, but maybe somewhere else where we don't do it this way. Feel free to subscribe, message me. I'm always happy to chat with you about how this process looks. So we've talked about scheduling utilities, doing the final walkthrough. As the agent on our side of things, we are making sure that if repairs were agreed to, that we get you copies of receipts, that you have an opportunity to have the home re-inspected for the items that were agreed to be repaired to make sure they were done in the right manner. Now, of course, you can choose to do that yourself, but a lot of people will pay their inspector. It's a very nominal fee just to come back and check on those handful of items. And then, of course, we have signing day. This is exciting. So if you have financed the home, this means you have gotten through turning in the bazillion documents that the lender asked you for, probably in triplicate, and they are now at the title office, and title is letting us know that we can schedule to have you signed. Now, a lot of times I have buyers, they really want to plan this out. They're trying to coordinate times with work, and unfortunately, there isn't a preset time that we can schedule for you. We have to literally wait until the lender has the documents at title, which we have no control over. But when we do get that great call, it's usually the day before closing, sometimes even the morning of closing. Once in a while, we do what's called a same day sign, fund, and record. Now, one of my number one goals is to be with you at signing, whether you're my seller or you're my buyer. There is a lot of paperwork to go through when you're on the buy side. If it's financed, you would want to budget about 30 to 45 minutes. Unfortunately, a lot of it is the same papers over and over again in triplicate, but I like to be there in case there's any questions. I can double check on the numbers, make sure it's all lining up the way it was supposed to from what we had stated in the contract. If we are on the selling side, you want to budget, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops. That part is pretty quick, and I still like to be there, however, just to make sure, again, the numbers look like they mathed out correctly and that all the terms and conditions are exactly as we had in the contract. I mentioned that a lot of times you'll sign the day before closing, and sometimes we get people from other states that are like, no, I am I'm not doing that. I'm not signing until I know I have my money in my account. And that's just not how it works in Arizona. What happens is you sign prior to closing. Sometimes we go to the title office, more often than not since COVID. They send a notary to us and have you sign all those documents. They're notarized, and then title just simply holds onto them until everything's processed. So title is the one that's collecting all the funds. So once title is collected, you know, the money that comes in from the buyer and maybe the buyer's lender, and it goes into their neutral account. And then they have gotten the final okay to release to record by both the agents, by any lenders that are involved. Then they give notification that we've closed, and then title takes those monies that are already secure in their account, and then they release it to the seller so that the seller usually has the money. If we close before 2 o'clock, they often have it that same day if they took a wire. If we close after 2 o'clock, which is more common, then they will get their money typically the next business day. And so it's a pretty quick turnaround process, but as soon as we record, that is when the buyer is entitled to the keys to the house, and the seller would want to be completely out of the house and have all their belongings completely out of the house as well. Once we record, then both the agents get a message by email or phone letting us know, hey, congratulations, the home is recorded, ownership is transferred from the sellers to the buyers, and then we are at liberty as the agents to make sure that the buyers get the keys as soon as we can possibly schedule that with them. Now, that is between you and your agent. If you want them right away, if you want us to go get them and bring them to you, or however, we can work that a million different ways. But it is an exciting time when you officially have the keys and it's your place and you can go start moving in whatever you want to. Thank you again for tuning in, watching this video. I hope this is helpful. Whether you already live here, you're thinking about selling or buying or moving to Arizona and you just don't know where to start, we have a great resource guide. We're happy to pop in the mail to you or email, and I'm always open to conversation if you just want to private message me. Be sure to like and subscribe as I go into more details about the Arizona home buying process over the next few videos.